This podcast is for informational purposes only. Personal views and opinions expressed by our podcast guests are their own and not legal advice, neither health, tax, nor professional, nor official statements by their organizations. Guest views may not be those of the host. Hello, and welcome to AI or Not, the podcast where business leaders from around the globe share wisdom and insights that are needed right now to address issues and guide success in your artificial intelligence and that digital transformation journey. I am Pamela Isom, and I am your podcast host. And so today we have a special guest, Brandon Lozano. He's the lead AI engineer at IsAdvice and Consulting, LLC, and a former intern at Slack National Laboratory. Brandon, welcome to AI or Not.
Thank you very much, Pam. A very warm welcome. I'm very happy to be here, very excited. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is for a little bit of a special event for AI or not.
That is true. So we are hitting our second year. Actually, we had our 1 year anniversary and you celebrated with us part of that last year. And so this is our second anniversary. And so we are excited about that and happy to have you be a part of it again. So to get started, will you tell me more about yourself, your career journey, and how that has shaped where you are today and where you are headed?
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to. So I'll give just a little bit of a blurb that's not so academic or professional, just so people can maybe get a little sense of my personality, I guess. So yeah, my name is Brandon Lozano. My family is from Colombia, South America. I really like Star Wars. I've always been kind of nerdy, geeky. I like to build computers kind of growing up. I played a lot of sports except baseball. I was just always pretty active, to be honest. And I was always just like really curious. Love to read. Definitely love to read. Always love paper planes, model rockets, stuff like that. So now that I've kind of given a little personality blurb, I am lead AI engineer here at IsAdvice and Consulting. I've actually also been here for a good little bit. Probably going to be celebrating anniversary soon as well. But yeah, I've been here for since just around the end of 2024 in some capacity, writing proposals, engineering solutions, designing things, working on different things here. But before that, and how I actually kind of met Pam was, as she mentioned, my internship at Slack National Accelerator Laboratory. So that was a really good time. I was a material science intern at Slack, which for my degree, which was political science and computer science, double majors with a minor in data science, that was very much none of those. Somehow, right, with 3 areas of study, material science was not that. And that's because when I was filling out the form, I really wanted to kind of shift a little bit more into hardware. UNC Chapel Hill, where I went to school at, is very theory based. It's a liberal arts school, and there's some state politics between the schools of like engineering being a little bit better at NC State. But I wanted to get a little bit more into hands-on work. I kind of wanted to get more into like really, really STEM science and kind of interdisciplinary work. So I ranked my preferences as like, I think astrophysics, number one, material science, and then just pure computer science, just something simple. And so the matching, I guess, just assigned me to chemistry/material science. My mentor, Hao Chen, very great mentor. Still have a lot of love for him, still communicate with him as well. But I was assigned to that group, and he had no computer science knowledge at all, and I had pretty much no chemistry knowledge at all. So that was a pretty fun summer of just teaching each other and trying to work on something cool that was inspired by his colleagues' work from, I believe, I think it was Lawrence Livermore, some work he had done in 2018, something in the physics arena that I was kind of trying to generalize into just general research science. Thinking back, it was kind of like trying to have or implement a really, really primitive form of RAG, of retrieval augmented generation. Because right when ChatGPT first came out, it was really great, and everyone's obviously thinking about how We can use this for science. How can we do this? Can we get robots to use this? Can we get robots to understand instructions through this? Can we get robots to do research for us, right? Just completely like accelerate research, cut out the need for, human sleep or human focus of counting each vial or swirling everything up for exactly 30 minutes. And the biggest problem was that ChatGPT hallucinates. And back in 2024, I think ChatGPT originally comes out like fall 2023. And it's hallucinating to the point where it might say like 2 plus 2 is 5, right? Like this
Mhm.
is something that you can barely really trust at the time. It's still kind of a novelty, a really, really cool novelty. But it's definitely not to the point where we see today people getting AI psychosis, right? Because this AI keeps talking to them so normally and egging them on and on and on. That's its own whole thing. But, anyways, I was aiming to fix that by using basically like a text corpus, specifically a training text corpus of just scientific research papers, and then kind of having this like provenance, traceability, which again, in AI, with a lot of things being black box models, you don't really know why exactly it's giving you an answer. You just kind of trust it because it's been right in all your testing, right? So it was aiming to kind of fix all those things by getting it solid scientific research papers, turning that into embeddings and having the system understand a little bit some of these relationships and maybe be able to do something. Of course, this was a two-person team, one a recently graduated computer science undergrad, and then a chemistry PhD who did not know much at all outside of maybe like Jupyter notebooks in terms of coding or computer science. So that was a really good time, and I met someone else to name drop. I think he was also part of the last year's roundtable, Ryan Coffey. I actually met him in the last few days of my internship there because they kept saying, "Oh yeah, he's a computer guy. I think he knows something about it." And this was pretty much the department I was placed in. This was pretty much the only computer science guy in like the entire department. Everybody else was chemistry. I was sitting in on groups discussing X-ray spectroscopy, quantum chemistry, all this stuff, just jotting down notes, trying to understand and reading their articles. But I met him and we just really hit it off. I guess we just were really chatting. He really liked my blend of like the political science and computer science. He really appreciated that. Like not just looking for a STEM pathway, but not to be too corny, too cheesy, but trying to use those skills to actually better the world or make things easier, innovate rather than just doing it for the money, just following or whatever the money says, like a Looney Tunes character, right? So that was how I ended up here. And then before that, I'd done some undergraduate research. I won't get super into it, but I did some research at the University of Virginia. That was in 2023. And that was research into kind of like data. So my case study in California, specifically, kind of into how data is being used by police and how these algorithms might be a little skewed and how AI and policing can kind of give an excuse of like, well, it can be biased because it's an AI, it's a robot, it doesn't have a bias. But again, this issue of data integrity comes up constantly and always should, right, in a conversation where we're talking about AI. If you feed it bad or not perfect data, really, then this AI model is not going to be perfect, right? So we can't pretend it's a perfect neutral arbiter, maybe locking people up or giving people tickets when it might not even be, trained properly or taking the right considerations. And that was actually my first big introduction into like data science. That's what kind of made me really like and be into like data, eventually AI, machine learning, and just kind of like ethics or like data storytelling. I've heard kind of thrown around as like understanding data, interpreting it, manipulating it, being able to understand and tell a story from that data. And then before that, it's more just kind of general like computer science, software engineering, and just like little student groups. I was very involved with SHIP at UNC, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And I think that also really encouraged me, not necessarily maybe in a academic interest or professional interest. Like it didn't really convince me to like get into AI or anything, but I do think that being in that and being kind of like a student leader in some of these groups really helped me just not like reject myself before like anyone else did and just put yourself forward and just like kind of gave me a little more comfort and community, again a little more experience with like handling things, handling people, People sometimes get into conflict. People sometimes cause problems that you wouldn't really think to account for. So all of that was really good. And then, so I think that was really career journey, career background a little bit. But now, what was the rest? I think you said, and where was I wanting to go, or where am I now?
So first of all, thanks for the background and helping me to understand even more about you. I'm sure that the listeners will find that intriguing as well. And so to add on to that, I am familiar, of course, with some of the folks from the laboratory. So, and yeah, we have done quite a bit of things together, some with you, some without you. But I think together there has been a lot that has been accomplished and there's more to come. What I want to know is, adding on to that, is how has your past research helped you with your current and planned endeavors?
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's a good question. It's really nice because I do feel, and that what I do really like about working on this current project here is advice is that it does, like I said, it does feel like something that's actually helpful and actually, innovative. And what's really nice is that it honestly feels like kind of amalgamation of everything I've picked up along the way. It kind of just feels like, oh, like this is what I was working towards. Like it's kind of funny to think back that when I was in undergrad or just freshly out of college, that maybe one component, each one of these internships or each one of these final projects in undergrad really stressed me out, really put me through the ringer. And I thought those were all bad enough on its own. I was like, okay, phew, made it through, made it through. And then now let's just work. It's just doing kind of each one of these things. And so my current project, the main project here at IsAdvice that I'm working on, again, don't want to put too much information just because of research security, but we're working on something, a database capability that helps accelerate microgrid adoption by really addressing this issue of having a lot of like data silos and kind of just really just every step, every connection is just really fragmented. It's really hard to have kind of like a continuous planning process and not just continuous, but also like cheap, reproducible. Because from what we've heard from interviews with some stakeholders, it's kind of just consultant spend, third party spend, or it's relying on just one piece of software's capabilities, and it's usually just maybe what they know or what they're used to. Because well, we don't really see what this will really give, and we don't even really see the economics. But if they were able to do more analysis and faster, right, then they would be a lot more willing and a lot more capable of investment and acceleration in this industry. And so one of the biggest problems, right, on top of the fragmented data is the different structures, right? So some of this data is really nice. It's really, really, really structured. And then the unstructured, right, the handwritten documents, that is, I mean, that's a whole other layer. I mean, humans got to take notes of that. Humans got to remember that. Humans got to process that. When you ask a human, right, if you're typing to this human, show me something about Alaska, for the other engineers or for the other people who are kind of mathematically inclined, tell me the big O of someone having to look through documents and looking for Alaska, right? I can guarantee it's going to be a lot slower than even the simplest query or retrieval system, right? So like I said, each little component of what I've done, like at Stanford, at Slack, working with like neural networks directly, working with like data ingestion, data pipelines, data processing, that was really helpful. That was very nice. Very, very helpful. Again, working in like a scientific environment, very helpful for the current research. Just kind of understanding the scientific method process, of course, is always going to just be good reinforcement throughout like undergrad research. And then specific data courses, of course, also fed into that Stanford, right? But if I had to throw in data science and statistical modeling and methods, would have been a whole other thing, right? So, and then I do really think that one particular class, in the same way that Stanford helped me with the pipeline and the processing and kind of these machine learning frameworks, right? Because in college, they never want you to use the tools that are out available like on the internet, right? They want you to show that you understand the concepts yourself. So you make it, right? You program. That's why even though it was just one little component in college for like a final project, it still put me through the ringer because I'm coding these data structures themselves. I'm making sure they have the exact appropriate behavior according to the theory. But one class was in UNC was very theory heavy. One class was a software engineering lab. That class was extremely helpful for like industry practice because again, in kind of normal computer science, especially if it's not specifically called like software engineering, computer science probably means it's pretty theory heavy. But in those classes, we're coding all these structures ourselves. Like we're learning about something in the class and then we're building that, right? We're
Mhm.
doing that ourselves and we can't use like the easy online things. We're not really supposed to be like copying code. Of course, this is like pre ChatGPT, so I don't even know what's going on in those classes these days. But you're supposed to do all that and you save it all on your computer and you turn it in like any other like economics assignment, political science essay, whatever. In real world, in the real life, first off, you don't have to code your own data structures because someone already did that and they did it way better than you ever could and you're just going to waste your time if you do it.
Mhm.
Third, you can definitely look up code all the time because again, if someone's already done it and you're just trying to figure it out your own, a novel, cool way, you're kind of wasting your time. So no boss would ever tell you don't look up if anyone's ever done something similar to this. And then fourth, just kind of like the business environment. Again, things you don't think about at all as like a student, but like actually using GitHub for like collaboration. Like, sure, I use it to like save my progress because that's what it is basically like a file code storage, code repository. But when you're actually working with other people and you have to make sure you guys aren't stepping on each other's toes or completely erasing someone else's progress or making sure this still works with the newest version of his thing and working in like a huge code base of well huge right for again for like a project at that time it was like 10, 20,000 lines of code which I probably got scared at that time when I saw like 300 lines of code. So that was just really helpful to understand kind of like front end, back end app like organization and development, database, like connecting everything, full stack development. That was really good. That was definitely a super useful class for like software engineering and kind of like actual industry practice and use of these tools and environments. So those I think are some of the biggest things that I think really helped me in this project. There's also some, an internal kind of like policy or like government memo intelligence tool that I made a little bit ago. And that kind of in a similar way was also kind of like a refresher or kind of like again another practice in like pipelines, like integrating real-time data, having like visualizations and kind of working on like a user interface. So yeah, I mean, I would say I definitely had a lot of things that have really helped me with this current research. Now, I think Slack definitely helped in terms of like the research and like working with like a scientific team. Because again, had I not had that experience, I think I would have been a little bit of like a culture shock, a little bit of a just different. There's a lot of unspoken rules or just things that people just know. Once you know it, you just keep it, and you don't even really think to mention it. So yeah, I feel like I definitely got a lot of experiences, to draw from to help me in this project.
I think that's good. When I graduated years ago, and then every day, I mean, I'm always looking for practical ways to take what I learn and apply it.
Mhm,
And I really wanna do something that's impactful and gonna make a difference. And I think that's the best way to learn. I remember the applied experiences from, of course, my university days and my graduate school days. I remember the exercises, I remember the experiences, the opportunities, and all that. But I think the most learning opportunity was when I put it to work for business. Because that's when you know that it's almost like that's where the rubber meets the road. So
mhm,
if you can do that while you're in school, that's great. And I think they try to do that with the curricula. They try to make it as much like
They
reality as
try,
possible.
yeah.
But when you get out there, yeah, it's still a lot to learn. And so it's good if you can take, and I would say that to anybody, if you can take the experiences that you've learned, and when you get these exercises in grad, undergrad, going for your doctorate, all that, when you get those assignments, know that those assignments really are equipping you for more intense work in the real world. Because right now,
Mm,
our work is intense. And
yeah.
so I'm glad that I'm not having to there's some things that we don't have the bandwidth. So I'm glad that you bring that to the table. So we appreciate that. And so for the undergrads and those that are learning, know that those things that you're learning matters when
Mhm.
you start to put it into practice.
Yep.
And so building on top of that, what do you wish people paid more attention to or knew more when it comes to AI?
Gosh, I mean, since my first endeavors into data slash AI, I always link them. Data, right? AI is really cool, and like I said, it's very tempting to like artificial intelligence. It just rolls off the tongue. It just sounds, kind of royal already, right? It sounds like something we should listen to. And it sounds like something, again, like out of a sci-fi film, like something we shouldn't even have as real. Okay. But again, like at the end of the day, I don't think anyone would tell you that any of the AI models are truly intelligent or sentient in any way. I don't believe that anyone, at least at these labs, like I said, some people using these products might think differently, but I think anybody at the labs would not make the claim that these are sentient or intelligent, really. And at the end of the day, the current basis for our, kind of understanding our notion of artificial intelligence is LLMs, large language models, right? And at the end of the day, again, that's the core of the model. And scientists are pretty clever with the way in which they use those capabilities. But LLM is a very, 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 very advanced version of like autocorrect, the same way where your phone can predict the next word that you're thinking, right? Using all of the data of typos, of all those errors that it would suggest you to change. It stored all that of all the messages or all the data that they use to train it so that they know what would sound right or what sounds weird, like what might be an anomaly, like, oh, they probably meant to hit the O, not the I. So it all boils down to that. It's the AI is not necessarily thinking or genuinely giving you like a new insight. It's kind of just predicting what sounds right to what you gave it, right? Like the prompts that you gave it. And so again, that's only even possible right now because of how much data they have and how much data they collect and how cheap it is to collect that data, how profitable it is to sell that data, right? And then, all the investment around the world that you see going into AI, right? Everyone clearly thinks that they need to spend all the money because then they'll win and everyone else will be the ones who wasted all their money on AI. So again, going back to this, just like models are what you give it, right? If we don't have like an idea of what's going in, or if we don't know the quality, or if we don't know how it's coming to certain decisions, then we really risk this really bad situation I keep bringing up where we just think the AI is just neutral. It's just perfect, right? And so having like data integrity so that we're not even thinking, we don't even want to think about malicious actors, right? But of course, we have to. Data integrity in terms of that, like, even if we did have a perfect model, what if a malicious actor all of a sudden starts poisoning the data so that it's like brainwashing our population slowly and in ways you can't notice, but it's starting to foment hatred or ferment certain feelings into population and we might not even know if we're not keeping a watchful eye, right? I see this misconception that that's just slowing us down, that's bogging us down. It's the AI race, it's the AI race. We need to get ahead, we need to do everything, we need to accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. But I think it is necessary to stop and take some considerations. I know some people have issues with, ethics or slowing down. But at the end of the day, like, even if you're not a fan of that, even if you don't believe in ethics, right, it still helps you keep secure, like, keeps you like a secure environment and helps you keep track of things, right?
Mhm,
That's always good, right? That's
mhm.
not a good thing, or that's not a bad thing to know that you are moving data in secure ways, handling data in secure ways. Your training data is not being manipulated. Your training data is actually valid. It's not being skewed to any which direction, dimension, whatever, and understanding, where this data comes from and where your pipelines are bringing, right? Because there's already kind of this issue I've seen a lot of people mention. It's like, okay, generative AI, of course, has really taken the internet by storm. Again, a lot by malicious actors because it makes a lot of things really, really easy and really, really cheap. But it's really taken everything by storm. And the more that the internet becomes generative AI, like output, the more that generative AI is just training itself on generative AI, right? So it's like at that point, even with all the data centers in the world, we're not moving, right? It's the same thing as Moore's law, right? It's moving really, really fast right now, but at a certain point, we've again hit a wall called reality. So,
I have an example. So I like to use the AI tools sometimes to help me with a sentence to make sure my grammar is okay,
mhm,
right? Grammatical
yeah,
things. But there was one time when I said, I want to really emphasize, and I'm trying to emphasize this particular point when I gave it the sentence to make sure the point was coming across. And so for this conversation, let's say that that point was misinformation. Let's
mhm,
say it was that. So now every time I'm using the model, it keeps bringing up misinformation.
yeah, right,
Like, no, no, I'm not talking about that. And that is because it learned that that was something I was interested in from a different
yeah,
conversation and it retains information, right?
mhm,
And so now I have to spend time making sure that what it is trying to communicate to me to if I want to if I want to have a brainstorming exercise, for instance, with the AI tool, I have to make sure now that it doesn't sneakily throw in something about misinformation that I'm not even talking about because it's
mhm.
holding it retains.
Yeah,
So we have
and
to yeah.
similarly, like, it's again just trying to give you what you want, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not thinking
Yes.
constantly, "Oh, like, and this is a good place to talk about misinformation too." It's just thinking a tool call, whatever, a tool call memory, right? Look at some of the stuff she said recently. Oh, misinformation, just yeah, throw something in there. It's not thinking, right? It's not
Yeah.
sentient. I think that's a big, big thing about the AI that a lot of people don't understand.
So you said, what do you wish people pay more attention to? And so your point is things like that, and also to
Mhm.
be sure and check the context of the output that it's producing. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Oh, for sure. And then I'd also just quickly, and I kind of mentioned it, but to make it explicit, cybersecurity is very, very important. Again, thinking of these malicious actors, because if you don't, that's a gold mine for these malicious actors, right? The
Mhm.
second you don't think about something, the second that you trust something, it can be taken advantage of, right? So definitely very big. So yeah, like I said, the biggest thing, data and not AI. Like they're like inseparable. This AI cannot just be this perfect thing that fell out of the sky and is like bestowing hallucinations and knowledge to us, right? It's completely powered by data. That's why we have the data centers. That's why we have all these things, all these problems, and that's why America is able to go really fast, whereas Europe, with a lot more, EU, GDPR regulations, other things to consider, they've been a little slow. I think that's also why China is able to go really fast, is because the Chinese government has access to any data that it wants, no question. Um,
Yeah, which makes me think about your concern around data access and access to information,
mhm,
period.
yep,
And that goes back to so every company should have ethics, period. Every
mhm,
company has ethics, they have ethics policies, they have ethical guidelines. Those guidelines need to be applicable to the models and to the data as well
mhm,
as to the people. And I
yes.
think that we can say we don't there may be some that don't wanna call it ethics. I don't care, right? There may be some that don't wanna call it that, but the ethics needs to be applicable to the machines as well as to the people, period. And so
Right.
that's what I think I heard you alluding to, and I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, even if you don't wanna call it ethics, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's just rules or standards, right?
It's
That's
moral. It's like,
yeah,
where's your moral compass? Like, that
yeah,
moral
yeah.
compass must be there.
Exactly, but even to not appeal to the moral compass, because money can definitely make that go away pretty fast. Even to not appeal to it, like I said, like, you just need to have, like, an inventory, like, you need to understand what's going on, right? You can't, I guess, unless you've just given up all morals, really, you can't just sell a product or release a product in the terms of AI, I think is kind of a more appropriate word. You can't release a product into society, into the world, right? Without having any understanding on what it does or what it could
Yeah.
do or what it shouldn't do or what
Yeah.
it should do during normal operating conditions and environments.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's silly to pretend like ethics isn't important. Even if you do think that ethics is not important, I just don't think you actually do. I think maybe at most you have a problem with that word or you think it's a little weighted or something, but
Yeah.
you just have to. I mean,
Mm.
there's no way around.
Yeah, it goes to what I like to deal with, which is AI security and governance, right? So
Mhm.
how are we governing our solutions, and
Yeah,
how are we
super
governing
important.
the people, process, and technology? So let me ask you this, because we were talking earlier and you like robotics. And I just kind of want to know more about that. Last night I was at a birthday party with my little one, and she turned 5, and she got 2 robots. And so it was so much fun, but I had to leave and go home. Like, grandma has to go home. Grandma, go home.
Yeah. Right.
And so,
Wow.
tell me about, different contexts, I know,
Yeah,
but I'm
right,
just
right,
saying,
right.
you like robotics, so tell me more about that. What's going on?
Yeah, I do like robotics. Unfortunately, so far it's been mostly as kind of a hobby or just as like an interest. Like I mentioned to you the other day, I am going through a move pretty soon, so I'm not really trying to be getting all that kind of stuff all into this space right before I leave, but I am planning on getting my hands on some stuff and building some projects just because that really interests me. Like I said, I used to like building my computers, but unfortunately, all these AI labs are buying up all the the RAM and the graphics cards and everything, so that's getting pretty pricey these days to
Are
be
you
kind
gonna
of like
build a
a
robot? Are
fun
you trying to
hobby.
tell me you're gonna build a robot? Tell me
Something
more.
like that, yeah, for sure,
Uh-huh.
an autonomous something at the least, but no, yeah, robotics is super cool, and it's gotten very, very cool in the past, few years, and I really think there's a few, key developments that have really allowed this. So, first, I think the most not really most obvious, I think most pressing one maybe people think about a lot are these rare earth minerals, metals, right? That allow us to make semiconductors or really, really small chips. That's like the biggest thing is that things have gotten really, really small and cheap, right? This phone, right, that we all have on us is an extremely capable computer. Even before, again, ChatGPT or all this hype about AI chips, before and Apple actually with their M1 chips and stuff for their Macs and their proprietary chips for like phones, iPads and stuff. That was actually also a really big jump, pretty big innovation from them. And I think kind of woke up the industry. But those kind of circuit boards and things that are able to run AI, like inference, like edge AI, that has gotten so, so small, right, these days, and it's gotten a lot cheaper to do it, and so that's a big reason why things are able to move a little bit more with robots. Self-driving cars as well, all that work with sensors and mapping out a physical environment, that's really helped. Another thing that's helped a lot is the advancements of machine learning and general hardware as well, allowing for more digital twins or virtual simulations, right? So instead of Boston Dynamics, right, having to build a robot or 10 robots and run hours and hours and hours of just watching this robot like try to learn how to walk, right? Try to learn how to climb a stair, try to learn how to react when it gets hit by a balloon, right? Instead of doing all that, just load it in a simulation, create hundreds that run for 24 hours, 7 days a week on a supercomputer or data center or some kind of cloud infrastructure, whatever. And then bam, put it in the real world, have it tweak for real world variables and everything. And you've got a pretty capable autonomous device. I think something else is all the, again, ChatGPT general advancements with like the machine learning, which is all enabled by the hardware. I wanna really, really emphasize that it's all emphasized by the acceleration and developments with our hardware, with our processors, with our chips. Another hardware design choice is rather than using like hydraulic joints, they're using like servo motors, which are a little bit more articulate and just seem to be a little bit better for this like balancing and things that robots have gotten a little bit better at recently. I do remember, I mean, back when I was kind of last interested in robots before this recent boom was when I was probably like in high school, and it was really just like Boston Dynamics robots at that time. And I do just remember how back then something extremely impressive was the fact that you could kick this thing over and it could stay up, or the fact that you could kind of drop it and it could stay up, right? It didn't have to get up and get into the perfect position, right? It could actually balance and adjust for different forces and everything. Now, first off, that's just like a TikTok video is like watching a robot box someone. Now you can watch someone fight a robot. The robot jumps back up, puts its arms back up, which is crazy. Now, again, China is just hard to ignore in the AI space these days. And they had some kind of state propaganda, showing or kind of demonstration with robots. These robots are doing like really crisp, really coordinated, I think it's kung fu, like a whole kung fu show, and they're doing flips and they're doing all this stuff, and none of them fall over, none of them have any progress. And of course, with the specifics of that, it's like, okay, was it programmed to just do that exactly? And they tested it on that stage for like 6 months and they got it perfect, 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 so that nothing would mess up. Or were these robots that, right, maybe we're given a video or we're given instructions like once and then autonomously executed this. Of course, there's room in the air for that. But regardless, again, 10, 15 years ago, extremely impressive if it can stand on its own.
Mhm,
That's our bar, right? If it can
mhm,
stand on its own and move. Actually, that's pretty much the bar. And you're already talking futuristic, 10, 15 years back. Now, we're thinking, well, did it really do that on the first try, or did they just, specifically program it to do flips and to do all this stuff, right? And then like drone shows, again, also show the coordination and the autonomous capabilities. It's a new age. I mean, like
mhm,
like we say, some of it makes us kind of laugh at how incredulous it sounds, and then some of it is kind of like, oh yeah,
mhm.
that's it is a new era,
So you're
seriously.
saying robotics is basically the norm?
Yeah, I mean robotics. I mean, again, economics, and I think the most clear way, just because militaries are always going to be using experimental technology, they're going to be kind of at the forefront. The defense industry usually is kind of where a lot of experimental technology ends up. A few years ago, these things would be called cruise missiles, something that you could shoot and kind of glide a little bit to its target. And now, you mean now these other countries are mass producing these things that are pretty much gliders with a lawnmower engine strapped on and an AI chip, and then go ahead, find your target. So I think it is going to be the norm. Unfortunately, I think this rare earth metals, you see it in some headlines. I think it's going to breed some conflict, breed some problems. Again, unfortunately, we're in a new age
Mhm,
where that might be the thing that is starting to cause a lot of issues, a lot of friction between states. But that's a little bit of my political science bleeding into the tech realm. But yeah, I mean, I think robotics is going to be the norm. And it's, again, really cute when I'm at the Japanese restaurant and little robot brings out my sushi with like a tuxedo. But yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be better. I've even seen some cool things from like Roomba, like
mhm.
Roombas that can like climb stairs or like pick up a sock. Like So it's cool. I mean, I do think, like I said, we're going in a new era. I really don't think I could have imagined. I still can't imagine what 2030 is going to look like, but I don't think I could have imagined what 2030 was going to look like, 10 years ago,
Mhm.
5 years ago, even. I
Yeah.
mean, it is. I gotta say, I mean, it is moving fast for sure. I mean, we said we were going to move fast, we were going to accelerate, and we definitely have. Everyone has. I mean,
Well, if you do decide that you're gonna start creating robots, then we should talk about how we can do something
oh
constructive.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
For sure, with all the creative stuff we've been working on, that would be another thing to add. And we would put in the burdenless boundaries that we would need to put in place
hmm
to guide our solutions and our robotics to more even higher quality outcomes. So
Yeah, for
that's what
sure.
we would do.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So we're getting at the end of this show. Considering your experience and the research that you're doing, I'd like to know if there is a call to action or words of wisdom or both that you would like to leave with the listeners. And I usually ask this as the last question. If there is anything else that you wanted to share with us, feel free. And then let's wrap it up with the last question, either a call to action or words of wisdom or both that you would like to leave with the listeners. And again, thank you for helping me celebrate our second year of AI or not.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be here. So, words of wisdom, I think I will just say, just to the other young professionals who are coming out and maybe not the most optimistic, market or news. I would definitely say don't reject yourself before anyone else does. Like it sounds a little silly, but make it that someone else is rejecting you, right? Don't ever tell yourself no or stop yourself, right? Why would you ever do that? It should only ever be somebody else that's telling you no. And again, first listen, that sounds kind of weird, like wanting other people to tell you no, but I would much rather have someone else tell me no 10,000 times than tell myself no once. So I would definitely say that to the young professionals who might be tuned in. I mean, anyone who needs to hear that maybe. It's not even just to y'all, but I know it's a it's a little rough right now. As for call to action in terms of more kind of subject matter or kind of definitely just learn more and just educate yourself. I think a lot of people are kind of just listening to what's going around on headlines and not really sure what's going on or not really understanding. And you don't have to have a computer science education or mathematics education or anything to just get a little into it, just understand what's going on, like what's its limits, what are its strengths, right? Because right now it's like it's a time, right? AI, everyone's trying to figure out what exactly it is. What do we mean when we say AI? Everyone's trying to figure out what is AI useful for? Everyone's trying to figure out what will people pay for to include AI, right? So, in a lot of different ways in a consumer space, definitely learn more because I can imagine this is a risky environment to traverse because everyone is just trying to get your money and prove to some investor, right? They have some kind of viable product, right? So, be careful. As a tech person, I never buy the first iteration of a product because I know that when it comes to tech, that's usually the beta testers, the early adopters tend to be the ones that get the kind of crappy thing that gets ironed out in like another generation or two. So to the consumers, be careful, be aware, stay informed. To anybody just kind of interested in the direction of society, direction of some of the most profitable companies we've got going on, definitely inform yourself again, learn the weaknesses, learn the strengths. Maybe the most reliable source of information is again not the people trying to sell you something very specific. So yeah, definitely inform yourself, learn more about it. Maybe there's even things that you don't think is right. Maybe write your representatives or write an angrily worded blog post or something. But just get educated, get learn about it. AI is not going away, even if it's a bubble, even if it pops, not going away. There's no way that could go away at this point. No way to put the genie back in the bottle. It's going to affect everything we let it affect. So not only get educated on how it works, get informed, learn how to use some models, learn again differences between them, parameters. What does that mean? Like, is that a bigger number better? Is it lower better? What's going on? Just learn a little bit because yeah, I really don't think it's going on. And the way I like to think about it is that AI, I don't think it's like the end all be all, like again, like divine intelligence that we're gonna get in like the next year. But at the very least, it's gonna be like a screwdriver or like a hammer, if you or a drill, sorry, like a drill or like a hammer, right? Once you got a hammer, why would you still bang in nails with your fist, right? Once you got a drill, you're not gonna be like, you know what, for old time's sake, let me assemble this table with a manual screwdriver, right? You're just gonna be like, "Whoop." So definitely, learn it. It's gonna be around, it's gonna be here. And you never know. Maybe it's gonna be the thing that enables you to do the very thing you've been wanting to do your whole life. Who knows?
I like that. So we can look at and consider AI as an enabler and just be
Mhm.
strategic about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I really like that. That's good insight. This has been very helpful and very informative. You have a lot of knowledge that came across in the discussion
Thank you.
today.
I
So
appreciate that.
I appreciate it.